What's up, guys? This is John and Mike back for another episode of the Nothing Finer podcast. I am currently working through some technical difficulties with my headphones, so if you will give me just a second and try and figure this out here.
You have no snare in
Um,
your headphones.
oh, I think I got you now. All right. So, this is our bold predictions and hot takes episode. I'm really excited for this. We got answers from a lot of you guys. You follow us on Instagram, commented on anything we put on Facebook. But I think I am most excited because this is our first official real deal live stream with millions. And from now on, we'll be live streaming probably at least once a week on their website. We're going to share the links every week and doing watch parties for games that neither of us go to. Maybe even maybe I can talk Mike into staying up late on a school night and doing the Florida Utah game and just roasting the Gators. We'll talk about it.
Ooh.
We'll talk about it.
You know what? I think I might be able to because I think that Friday we have a e-learning half day. And I'm a gym teacher, so I don't
Oh,
have to be like
perfect.
cognizant of anything. So there we go.
Yeah. How are you gonna gym teach online?
That's a good question. I think the other PE teachers were saying that like during COVID, they're like, "Oh, record yourself doing 10 jumping jacks," and there you go. So probably something like that.
Oh, for a second I thought you were gonna have to record yourself doing 10 jumping jacks and not have
This
the
is
kids.
well, I mean, really, it's more about holding me accountable than the kids. So that's
Yeah,
education.
yeah, I mean, why should the kids be responsible for actually learning anything?
No, not at all. Never.
Um, but so tonight we are also going to talk about our breakout dogs for this season. That was our very first episode last year. So I'm excited to bring that back. And at the very end, if we have time, we are going to get into our bandwagon teams again this year. But this season we are actually going to keep up with them instead of forgetting about them for the first 6 weeks of the season.
I'm legit excited about my or my bandwagon team. So
I mean, I am too, honestly. Like we'll get to why I'm excited later, but no, I'm really looking forward to it. And also,
mm,
if you hear noise in the background that sounds like a storm, that's because it's Savannah in the summertime, and it just is what it is.
yeah, I had to go move my car just before we started, and it sounded like it was the most like lightning I've seen since I've been here. Like it was just repeated over and over and over again. And if a tree falls through the house, we'll be on live, so that will get more views.
Oh
So
yeah,
that's cool.
could you a natural catastrophe while we're live streaming? I mean, I feel like that's some good numbers.
I'm willing to do it.
Yeah, I mean, you
There's a
got
dead
homeowners
tree right
insurance.
here. Yeah, I mean, there's a couple dead trees right here that I should have taken care of a while ago, and at some point it's gonna get me.
So here's the deal. I got a chainsaw. I'll come over one day. We'll shotgun like 6 beers apiece, and then cut down a tree because I mean, that's what you're supposed to do in the South.
Fuck yeah, let's go.
But before we get into all that good stuff, how was your weekend and what are you drinking?
Weekend was great. I don't have the Sunday scaries anymore, being in PE, so nothing to worry about there. Just super busy all the time with the kids and everything. Our internet was out the last 4 days, so that's one of the reasons why we weren't able to record. Monday night, unfortunately, they just fixed it about an hour and a half, 2 hours ago, and after being out for about 4 days. So that was fun to try to entertain the kids old school 90s way without any Wi-Fi for the last, couple of days, especially over the weekend. But as far as what I'm drinking, PBR from Kroger.
There you
Didn't
go.
have didn't have much. Not a didn't think about doing a liquor run until we had to go to Kroger before we got home today. So just saw what I can get,
I
and there we
mean,
go. How about you?
PBR is really the only beer I drink, not because I'm a trashy person, but because I buy beer on my way to go play disc golf, and it is
Mhm,
the cheapest 6 pack at
mhm.
the gas station. So, you
Yeah,
know,
no, I am that trashy. That's usually my go-to.
it's
I ain't
not
afraid to
bad.
admit it.
Like a lot of
It's
people shit on it, but it's not bad.
No, I mean it's really not. There's plenty of other beers that I won't even fucking touch. Even well, I shouldn't say if it was free or not, because if it was free, I'd still drink it. But um, as far as like a lighter beer, can't go wrong with PBR.
I have always said the best beer is a free beer, the second best is a cold beer, and the third best is your favorite.
I don't think you've seen me drink anything besides PBR. Besides, I obviously like whiskey and stuff.
I was about to say it's pretty much been. Oh, you did have a Club Tails. You did have
Oh,
a
that's
nice Club Tails.
just pretty much anything I can find at the gas station because I forget. Oh shit, I don't have any liquor at home. Let me get some from the gas station.
Oh no! So this weekend was good, man. I didn't do much. We had a little get together at the house with some friends and all got pretty trashed. I smoked brisket, which was good.
Did
Um,
you ever get a hold of Lincoln Riley? Take compare like notes for that and all that.
no, I didn't. But if anyone can get in touch with Lincoln Riley, I mean, I accidentally made the brisket as good as I did because I put it on expecting it to be done at like 4 p.m. and it was done at 8 a.m.
Oh shit,
So yeah, I managed to keep it warm, tender, and juicy for 7 hours before we ate dinner. So
giggity, very good,
yeah, it's always about how warm, tender, and juicy it is, Lincoln. We got some work to do.
definitely.
But I am drinking. I'm honestly trying to go through my cabinet over here and see what I haven't had on the show before. And y'all know I don't remember shit, so it's been tough. But I think I have not had this one on the show before, and that's a question more than a statement. But it is Booker's Bardstown Batch. It was their third release of 2021, so it's obviously been in the cabinet for a minute here. Um, but it is 125 and a half proof. So, if I get a little shitty by the end, because I accidentally also poured a massive glass over here.
Hell yeah. I mean, there's not a better time to get shitty and, spot off hot takes and all that. So
Oh
it's
yeah,
the best time to do it.
oh yeah, and we did get another one like 30 minutes ago. So
Sweet.
yeah, no, I'm pretty excited to get through these. So the way that we are going to do this is Mike and I both have a couple, and then I'm going to read the submissions. Mike has not read any of these
Ooh, I'm
except
excited.
for
Let's go.
so Mike's read the ones that were in the group chat, but as far as the ones that we got through Instagram, Facebook, all that kind of stuff, Mike has not read any of them. So that'll
Treat.
be fun getting some
It's like a
raw
it's,
emotion.
it's like a reward.
Oh yeah, one of them you're gonna lose it on. So I'm
Okay.
excited. I'm excited.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
so my first hot take is the coaches poll should carry more weight than the AP poll until the college football playoff poll finally comes out.
Ooh.
Be-
Okay.
because who better to determine the best teams in the country than the coaches that recruited these players out of high school, and even if they didn't land them, knows what these players are capable of, knows other coaches' ability to develop that talent, and knows other coaches' ability to scheme around that talent. The media are some nerds behind a keyboard, and I'll include myself in this. Better at evaluating talent and projecting teams than the coaches that actually have forgotten more about football than any of us will ever know.
Mm.
And so, just to reiterate my point here, I'm just going to read off. I got like 7 or 8 different wild ass AP polls that were put out yesterday. Oh, we kind of buried the lead. We'll get to the AP poll after this because we did forget all about that. But Trevor Haas of Boston.com put Alabama second over Ohio State, who is at 3, and Michigan at 4, and TCU, who lost pretty much everyone that did anything on their team last season, at 10.
He's from Boston. They obviously don't follow college
I,
football that
it
closely.
get it gets better. Honestly,
Mhm.
it's none of them are good of the ones that I'm putting on here. And I'm not saying this to necessarily disparage any of these people individually, But my point is, coaches know football more than journalists do. So why is the AP poll the end all be all until the playoff poll comes out? That's my point.
Yeah. I will say one pushback on that is how seriously do coaches actually take the coaches poll? Like, didn't Spurrier like, or I know he did. I'm sure others did as well. But like, just that give it to like a GA or whatever. They just filled it out real quick and they submitted it. Like, I don't know how seriously
So
do they take it.
so I have heard both Kirby and Nick Saban in interviews talk about taking it seriously.
Okay, I can see that for them. Yeah, absolutely. Like
Um,
Lane Kiffin, for example, like would he really put that much thought behind it? I think it's just more of a troll for him and like maybe some other coaches, but I don't know.
yes, but I think the personality of the coach actually has a lot to do with who votes because it's not every team gets a
Oh,
vote.
that's fair. I forgot about that. Yeah.
So Tom Murphy of the Arkansas Democrat Gazette has LSU at 3 over pretty much every team that made the playoff last season except Georgia, and put Utah at 8.
Ooh.
Scott
Okay.
Springer of the Cincinnati Enquirer had Texas in the top 10, right at 10.
I have no issue there. Honestly, I really don't.
I, I do just because they haven't proven anything other than that they can lose close games.
True.
Ryan Thorburn of the Register Guard has LSU, USC, the real one, and
Yeah.
Alabama over Ohio State at 3, 4, and 5. This, this one, this is
Okay.
this is the one that's going to really piss you off.
Mhm.
Ryan Aber of the Oklahoman has Michigan at 7.
They're fifth in returning production at playoff team that should have made the championship game. And
Of
who,
a
who
team that won back-to-back Big Ten championships, beat Ohio State at home, went to the playoffs 2 years in a row, and even though they shit the bed for 50 of the 60 minutes of that game against TCU, still lost by one possession.
mhm. Had two pick sixes, don't forget.
Correct.
They really, yeah, I mean, when you say shit the bed, I mean they diarrheaed all over that shit.
Oh, I mean, like, Amber Heard would be impressed. They shit the bed so hard.
Hmm.
So, Ron Counts of the Idaho Statesman, and Idaho, I'm pretty sure, doesn't even have an FBS team, but that's beside the point.
The
Texas at
Vandals.
6.
Yeah.
Texas at
That
6.
that
Okay.
okay.
All
Sure.
right.
Why not?
And then last but certainly not least, from a friend in quotations of ours, because I'm sure they all hate us by now, Reese Davis. Everyone knows Reese Davis. He's on
Hmm.
ESPN pretty much all the time. He has Michigan at 1, which
Yeah. No. Sorry.
okay. Uh, we'll get to it in the AP poll, but he has Georgia at 2, Florida State at 3, LSU at 4, Bama at 5, Ohio State 6, USC 7, Tennessee 8, Clemson 9, and Texas 10th.
Can he lose a vote? I mean, with his role,
I don't even know how
that
you get in. I don't even know how you get a vote because I like. I'll write some articles. I'll write 3 articles, but I guarantee you I will put 10 times the amount of hours into actually getting an AP poll together than 90% of the people that actually vote.
yeah. I mean, the one argument that I could see him, and I know he's made it because I've heard him say it about Michigan being one, which I don't agree with, even being a homer, is how many pieces they have returning. Again, they're fifth in returning production, and all that. But no,
Right,
no.
right. You have a team that won back-to-back national championships, first time in college football playoff history,
Mhm,
returns all but what 2 starters on defense, or people
mhm,
that played significant snaps on defense. Of a top 10 defense for 2 years in a row, best rushing defense 2 years in a row. You return all but 3 skill positions on the offensive side of the ball, and you only lost 2 offensive linemen. Oh, and you're replacing all those guys you lost with 5 stars. But yeah,
mhm.
no, they're not the best team in the country.
No, not at all. But the rest of that, I mean, FSU at three, that had to be the highest place that FSU came in on any ballot whatsoever. Like, right? Like, I know they didn't get a one first place vote.
had to be. And let's just jump into the AP poll here. Like from the top, we'll go through the top four. We'll do top 10 of what the AP poll actually is, and then anything that stands out we'll bring up. So
Mm.
Georgia at one got 60 of the 63 first place votes. Michigan at two had two of the first place votes. Ohio State at three had one first place vote, which we'll get to it. We'll get to it.
Yep.
Alabama
Yeah.
at four, even though they don't have a quarterback that could hit the broadside of a barn from the inside.
Or receivers for that matter, like that we know about, like that have actually done something in the
Come
college
on,
field.
man. Jermaine Burton is elite at slapping women in the face.
I don't even know what to say. You're not wrong. He was scared. He was scared.
Yeah, terrified of a 110-pound sorority girl running past him.
Maybe
Anyways,
they're doing like the bachelorette party, like woo, like the shit that you hear downtown all the time. I would have been. I'm scared by that. I love that.
so we got LSU coming in at number five, the real USC at six, Penn State seven, Florida State eight, Clemson nine, and Washington 10. I will say out of the not top 10, what really surprises me is Iowa coming in at 25, even
Hmm.
though they don't offense. Um,
Their offense is offensive.
Tulane dropped all the way down to 24 after beating USC last year, and they're 31st in the country in returning production. So that's,
Mm.
yeah, that it doesn't matter anything about the very last game they played. Um, Texas A&M at 23, I kind of get because they do have a lot of hype, but it's also Jimbo Fisher, so is what
Mm.
it is.
Yeah.
Oklahoma coming in at 20th. I
Seems
don't.
high.
That seems higher than Hunter Biden driving to Las Vegas.
It, well, they were what? Were they 6-6 last season or 7-6?
I believe they were
They were
7-6. Yeah,
they.
yeah.
That's quite a leap of faith. But the one thing, my biggest gripe, just kind of like what you said so far, and well, no, I'll save it for later because it's my bandwagon team, so I'll hold off. Never mind.
Oregon coming in at 15th, and I will say I probably wouldn't have had them much higher than 10, just
Hmm.
because they did lose their offensive coordinator, and he was a massive part of why they were able to do what they do. Anytime Bo Nix switches offensive coordinators, it has not been good throughout his career. And his two
Hmm.
best seasons, point blank period, were with Kenny Dillingham, who's now the head coach of the Arizona State Sun Devils. So I get that.
Hmm.
Um, Tennessee all the way down to 12th. I understand that completely.
I think they should have been further back, but okay,
I don't mind 12th. It gives them time to get into the top 10 before they get their hopes crushed again.
fair.
Um, my biggest, I think the most disrespectful ranking on this entire list is TCU at 17. And I want to make it clear, I do not think TCU. I'm just going to go ahead and say I don't think they make the Big 12 or conference title game. I don't.
No. Mhm.
But for a team that went from 5-7 to competing for a national championship game, and granted they got curb stomped, for the returning national runners up to be in the bottom half of this list, I think is very disrespectful to the program. And I understand they lost their quarterback, running back, wide receiver, bunch of guys on defense, their offensive
Offense,
coordinator.
yeah.
I get it.
Mhm.
But I believe they at least earned a top 15 spot based off of what they did last season, considering we haven't seen any play on the field yet.
Mhm. Yeah, I would say. I mean, top 15. They should be just out of respect to their program, but I mean, like you said, I mean, the amount of stuff, the amount of pieces that they lost, again, including the offensive coordinator Garrett Riley, I think is going to be huge for them. Like, is Sonny Dykes a one-hit wonder? we don't know. I mean, we'll see. Obviously, this season, but yeah, top 15, sure. But like, I'm not super pissed off about TCU being that low. It is disrespectful because they did get to the championship game. They played the final game of the season, and they should have been, got garnered a little bit more respect. Obviously, Georgia kicked the shit out of them, but honestly, who at that point, especially after that Ohio State game, who would have looked like halfway decent against Georgia in that game? To be honest, not being a homer, but we're locked in.
I believe this is the lowest ranking a returning runner up has gotten at the beginning of the season during the playoff era. I'm actually almost 100% certain.
I believe so. And I think something I saw on College Football Live today is if you there's only been two teams I think since 2000. I could be a little bit wrong on that. That have made the championship game being lower or I guess higher, so like above seventh. I think there's only been two teams. That was Auburn in 2010, and then Florida. I think it was Florida State in 2013 with what's his face Jameis. Sorry, but like if you want to be a contender, like being in the top seven is a good place to be. Just to look at that.
Yeah, and so a couple interesting things of teams that received votes but didn't make the top 25. Auburn got 7 votes. Interesting, considering
Yeah.
they were god awful last year.
Hmm.
South Carolina got 73. I feel like they deserved all 73 of those.
Yeah.
Arkansas returning arguably a top two or three quarterback and running back coming in at with 22 votes.
I mean, definitely the best running back quarterback combo in the SEC. I mean, you could argue that right now,
Yeah,
returning at least.
yeah,
Yeah.
and that's what I meant. I don't know if I said in
Yeah.
the SEC, but that's what I was going
Oh.
for.
Hmm.
Um, Somehow, some way, Florida got 4 votes. Don't get that, but you know, I'm I you know is what
It's
it
a
is.
it's a brand name thing. A lot of those teams, like your Notre Dames and even Iowa to a certain extent, it's all brand name things. The AP voters that are just filling it out real quick. Oh, I know that team. I recognize the colors. Why not throw them on there? Give them the benefit of the doubt. Like Oklahoma being at 20, probably not, but
Yeah.
colors are familiar.
And Caleb Tillman, who's in the live stream. If you're not in the live stream, we're going to do it 8 p.m. the days we record. Next week will actually be a little bit later because our guest has requested a little bit later of a start time, but we'll put that out later in that. But Caleb Tillman did say that I was correct about that is the lowest a returning runner-up has started.
My man,
Man, it's almost like we need to give him some of our paycheck to for the research, and by that I mean a
Jamie.
part of zero. Anything divided by zero is zero. So here's your paycheck.
Oh, that was math. Oh,
All right, so we've gone through my first hot take, and then did a patented tangent into something we should have talked about already. What's your first hot take?
all right. So I changed this a little while ago because it kind of gave away what my bandwagon team was going to be again. But everybody's hating on this team right now after our Puncher's Chance series, one of our first ones we did. He really got me going on it, even though he wasn't willing to bet the mortgage or put the mortgage on this team to go over. The way he talked about the team got me like super excited, and that is Ole Miss. All right, my hot take is Ole Miss is actually going to win the SEC West for the first time ever.
And the last time.
Probably, yeah,
Well,
probably. Oh yeah,
there's
yeah,
not going to
yeah.
be any more SEC West next
Hmm.
season.
Good point. Yeah. Um, So with all with Junkins being there, Dart being there, and again our guest Grayson, like I mean he talked up Dart so much, even and then with Spencer Sanders apparently playing well even in fall camp. I mean, and it's got me going. Like I'm drinking the Kool-Aid with the Rebels. Lane Kiffin seems to be on a roll, especially with getting transfers in there. The defense seems like it's going to be improved. getting Alabama's old defensive coordinator, even though they were helping him pack his bags to get out of Tuscaloosa. I don't think he's as bad as they made him out to be. I really don't. And we talked about that, so y'all can go back and listen to that. But like I am riding this hype train on the Rebs uh, so much. I think I mean especially with I don't think Alabama is going to be the Alabama team that we're used to. LSU, I think they topped out. Last year, and they could be as good as last year, but even then, I'm not super convinced of that. And Texas A&M is such a wild card as well. Like we talked about a little bit with the AP poll, them barely being in the top 20, but they have all that talent. I mean, it's such a boomer bust for them. Which again, we talked about them in the Puncher's Chance series as well. But I'm sipping the Ole Miss Kool-Aid at the Grove, ready to go, ready to see them in Atlanta. Even if they lose, or even when they lose to Georgia and Athens, I think SEC West is going to cannibalize itself so much, so that even with two or potentially even three SEC losses, I think they can make the championship game.
I will say, if Ole Miss's defense is marginally better last season,
Mm.
they beat Alabama,
Yeah. Hmm.
and and I think they have it this year, and I think they actually have more talent at those skill positions. So I don't necessarily think you're too far off there. It's probably not very common take, but it's not far fetched.
I think I want to say at SEC Media Days, I want to say Ole Miss only got like two or three votes. Like it was not very many. It was in the single digits to win the SEC West. I mean, it was obviously between Bama and LSU. It was not that far off.
So my second take, in the last season of the Pac 12 as we know it, not only does no one from the conference make the playoff, but USC finishes with a worse record than last year and does not win the Pac 12 title.
Ooh, okay.
You got to have a defense. Like, if the same Utah team that lost to Florida can beat you, you shouldn't be in conversation for conference championship or the playoff.
Beat them twice.
Beat them twice.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I've said this stat on the podcast, but I want to say 70+% of the time when a team rematches in the same season, both teams go home with a win. There's an actual stat somewhere. I'd have to dig it up. But Utah won twice. And, cool, you have a 6'7", 180-pound linebacker. Great. But when you have a Utah team that's going to put their left guard on that inside linebacker and push his ass into the dirt, it doesn't matter.
Hmm.
And sure, Bear Alexander is going to tear it up in the Pac 12 this year. But one defensive player doesn't win you championships.
Especially on the interior defensive line too. Like he's not Ndamukong Suh. He's not going to be that. I mean, he can be good, but he's not going to be that game changing like Heisman type player.
Right, to win the Pac 12 with only one good defensive player, it would have to be Darrell Revis in
Hmm.
his prime.
Yeah.
I not only am I not drinking the USC Kool Aid, but I'm probably pouring it out and kicking you out of my house for bringing it.
It's the with the Jim Jones Kool-Aid.
That's the Lincoln Riley Kool Aid is the Jim Jones Kool Aid.
There we
Absolutely.
go. Um, real quick, going out what I said before. So I gave the SEC media or the media day crew a little bit too much credit. They actually picked Ole Miss to finish fourth, and they got zero first place votes. Compare that to Vandy. Vandy got one. Ole Miss didn't get any. So
I think they
there's
got five. I think Vandy got 4 or 5 to win the East.
on the actual SEC site I'm looking at. It just says they got one, but I thought that was what they said too. I don't know. Maybe I'm looking at the wrong thing. Oh, nope. Nope, that's 20. That was 2022. Never mind.
little bit of a tangent here. I got the Braves game playing off to the side, and Spike Lee is at the Braves game in Atlanta because they're playing the Yankees, dressed out in all Yankees gear, and looks like he's about to cry. So,
What's the score? I don't have my phone with me.
I believe it's 5-0. They're coming back from a commercial break, so I'll be able to tell you in just a second.
Could
5-0.
you imagine flying all the way from, I assume he lives in New York because he goes to the Yankee games and Knicks games all the time, but flying all the way from New York to Atlanta to watch a last place Yankees team? I couldn't,
No,
even if I had the money.
no, I couldn't.
No.
I
I did find it though. Okay, so I was still right about Ole Miss being picked to finish fourth. They got zero first place votes. Vandy got eight. So there we go.
breaking news: Vandy is better than Ole Miss, apparently.
Well, they'll settle it on the field this year,
But that's exactly why we give the AP poll so much credit because the media knows what they're talking about.
obviously. Mhm.
All right, your next hot take, and then we're getting on to the fan submissions.
All right. So I'm probably gonna get stuff thrown at me, messages, things like that, because this is gonna be seem like a big homer thing. But you know, throughout the fact that I write about this team and get paid very well for it, not really, but
I saw the
um,
wink.
and everyone that's watching did too. There we go. But Mike, that's me, obviously. Okay, so Michigan finally wins a playoff game. And my caveat with that is unless they play Georgia because they're not beating Georgia. I don't care. I don't give a shit if they have a beat Georgia 9-on-7 drill, replacing that with the Ohio State one that they had did the last few years. But I said Michigan's going to finally win a playoff game unless they play UGA. So my thought process behind this being again, it's going to seem like a homer pick, but this is going to be the first year that they make it to the CFP National Championship. And again, and I talked about this a little bit earlier, but their returning production is a big part of that. They returned a season, JJ McCarthy, his second year. I don't necessarily agree with him being a Heisman, hopeful or anything like that. Like he can play well. He played decent at times last year, decent to above average last year. But my big thing is they have two of probably the top five running backs returning in college football, in Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards. And as a team that loves to run the ball, that's going to be huge for them as long as they can stay healthy. And as much as we hate on the Joe Moore Award, Michigan does have, especially in the Big Ten, they have an elite offensive line. They're not going to have any trouble in the regular season, besides potentially Ohio State at the end. And I'm not even worried about Penn State, even though they play them in Happy Valley. I'm not worried about it. But
Happy
they also have one of the
Valley
best second. What's that?
sounds like such a pornographic series.
What's that?
Happy Valley sounds like it could be the name of a porn series.
They try to make it the.
Oh, I wasn't even expecting you to go there. Woo, we are getting off to a hot
Yeah.
start here, pun
Sorry.
intended.
No, definitely not hot. God no.
I was talking about it's our hot takes episode.
Oh, there we go. Oh, shit. There we go. Uh,
Back to
but
Happy Valley.
Happy Valley. Um, but the other thing I was going to say is Michigan does have one of the best secondaries in the country. Obviously, it's up there with Georgia as well. But it's gonna be they're not going to have any problems in the regular season, especially with Jim Harbaugh. He's not is as of right now, which could always change, but it doesn't seem like it's going to happen until 2024. But if you haven't heard, Jim Harbaugh's not serving that 4-game suspension for being for cosplaying, being the Bizarro Hamburglar and giving out hamburgers to recruits or cheeseburgers, I should say. That's adds a little bit extra to it, but. He's not going to face that suspension, even though it really wasn't going to matter because they weren't playing anybody the first 4 games of the season anyway. Although they did play Nebraska game 4, but we're not going to worry about that. But anyway, so Michigan hasn't necessarily had a elite recruiting class. They've had some guys here and there, but one of the things that Jim Harbaugh and his staff have done better than almost real not again not better than Georgia necessarily, but better than most teams in the country is developing these low 3-star, even some 2-star guys into being like NFL prospects. I mean, I think they had 8 or 9 guys drafted last year. The year before that, they had 10. I mean, they're putting guys in the league and they're being productive in college as well. So like it's not again not necessarily the depth that someone like Georgia has or Alabama and to a certain extent Ohio State, but they're putting guys in the league. And I mean they're elite in a lot of these different areas that some of these other teams that we talked about with the AP poll are facing questions with. And what else was I going to say? All right, so yeah, they took a bunch of unrecruited guys and turning them into NFL players, and they'll probably go 11-0, I would think, because again, I'm not worried about Penn State or Michigan State or anybody like that. They don't play anybody in the non-con, but they'll be 11-0 facing Ohio State in Ann Arbor, and I don't care what Ryan Day in his weird beard had to say. They're not putting 100 on Michigan. They still haven't done that after he said that after the COVID cancellation. But um, while the game's going to be close, Michigan's going to pull it out in the end and beat the shit out of whoever they play in the Big Ten West. Probably Wisconsin. I can't see anybody else, honestly, besides it being them. But um, they're going to win the conference championship game. As long as they don't play Georgia, they're going to win their first CFP game or yeah, college football game this season.
So not not anything about your take necessarily, but the Jim Harbaugh situation for this season. Because they said he will not serve any suspension this year because they rejected his downgrade to a 4 game suspension.
Mhm.
Is there any chance he gets like a full season or a half a season for next year, or do Michigan fans really not care because they think this is their chance?
I think this is their chance, and it's tough to say because I think they do care. But here's probably another hot take: if Michigan wins it all this season, I think he's gone. I think he's
Ooh,
gone.
back to the NFL.
Yep. He's not going to another college team. I mean, it's his alma mater and all that. But if he's going to face any kind of suspension or anything like that, like Jim Harbaugh's not one to, take
Deal with the consequences of his own actions.
right. I mean, he burns out pretty quick wherever he goes. Obviously, I mean, you could look at the San Francisco situation. I mean, he burnt that shit down before he went to
It
Michigan.
burned super bright though.
Yeah. Oh, he did. I mean, he got them to a Super Bowl for the first time in forever. So, I mean, I could see if he does win it all, which I don't think he's going to necessarily do that. But if he gets at least to a national championship game and
Put up a
want to
fight.
NCAA wants to play tough and show every once in a while that they do have some kind of power and they just they're gonna try to push for more than 4 games. Which if they're willing to do that, it sounds like they have a bigger case than what they're letting on.
Exactly, because there have been multiple coaches that have had significantly worse
Mhm.
accusations that barely got suspended.
Yeah, it's such a weird situation. I mean, of course we'll hear more about it going forward, but
Knowing the
I really,
NCAA, they'll leak something like the day before the Big Ten championship game, or
yeah,
like the
it
day
causes
before the Ohio
distraction.
State game.
Yeah, I'm sure, but uh, this could, even in the last few years with Jim Harbaugh flirting with the NFL, I think after this season, if anything were to come out and it, ends up being more than a 4 game suspension, I think he's out. I think he's not going to want to face a suspension now, all that stuff. He's just going to go back to the NFL.
Gotcha. I was really interested in asking you that because of everything that
Mhm.
that could potentially mean.
And he
Okay, go
has
ahead.
such a big ego. I mean, that's the other thing too. Like we talked about before, like he doesn't want to face any consequences of anything. I mean, I don't want to say he thinks he's bigger than the game because I don't think that's necessarily true, but
Probably
he,
thinks he's bigger than the NCAA because
yeah,
that is possibly true.
he's not, yeah, he wouldn't be wrong there, but one of the things I heard, and I think it was on the Cover Three podcast, and they were talking about it, and it made a lot of sense, was that if he chooses to fight this like to the death, this might be one of the things that really does push like, the Power Two and, some of the other also rans that, think they're, can be a legitimate like football power and pushing them like out of the NCAA because they don't want to put up with that bullshit. Could be. This could be
That's
the straw that
fair.
broke the camel's back.
I do still think, this is potentially a hot take. I do still think college football needs a governing body to
Yeah.
be the bumpers on the bowling lane.
Hmm.
Like you can do whatever between these two lines, but these two lines, you cross it, you're done, kind of thing.
Yeah. Agreed. Yeah.
But before we get into a big whole conversation about college football playoff becoming its own sports conference, let's get into some of these fan or crowdsourced hot takes. So we're gonna do the first ones are gonna be things that you've already read because they were in the group chat. But
All right.
so Josh Deal says Texas barely loses to Bama, navigates the Big 12, and makes the playoffs.
I agree with that. Now, I think they're going to beat Bama, but they're one of my picks to actually make the playoff.
So I also think that they're gonna beat Alabama, but it is Texas.
Hmm. And it's in Tuscaloosa.
I mean, I don't care. I think Texas beats Alabama. I think they're a more complete team this year,
Yeah.
especially being that early in the season. And Bama, as we already said, Bama doesn't have a quarterback right now that's shown they can hit the broadside of the barn from the inside.
Hmm.
But what's one thing that Texas has done every year since they won a national title?
Bitch and complain.
Well, I was more talking about shit the bed against a 6-6 Big 12 team out of nowhere and lose
That too.
any chance they ever had at doing something good.
Yeah. That too.
I mean, if we're gonna be honest, I think Texas Tech, maybe even oh good lord, I lost it. Oklahoma State is pretty sneaky. They've actually gotten a
Mhm.
significant number of bets to win the Big 12 this year over the last week.
Okay.
So that could be an interesting game. So Christopher Smith, his hot take: LSU versus Oregon for the national title. He says to win their conferences, LSU beats Georgia and Oregon beats USC.
That's spicy. It's real spicy.
I don't necessarily think that Oregon to the playoff is all that terrible of a take.
No.
I don't think LSU to the playoffs is that terrible of a take. I think LSU beating Georgia is an awful take. Um, but little caveat here: Christopher Smith is also the biggest LSU homer I have ever met, and they could lose 12 games in the regular season, and he would still say that they would beat Georgia just because he lives in Georgia and hates all of us.
I can understand.
Yeah,
I
I
get it.
mean, I get it, but I don't think the LSU beating Georgia is all that realistic, and I don't think USC even makes the Pac-12 title game.
Oregon could definitely make it, though.
Oh yeah,
Definitely.
Oregon, they've got a way to make it. I think pretty easily.
I mean, they got, eighth year quarterback Bo Nix, father of the year.
But without Kenny Dillingham, which I think is a huge
Yeah.
caveat that not enough people are talking about.
Hmm.
Um, so Caleb Tillman, shout out our researcher on the show.
He's our Jamie.
He's our Jamie. Actually, Caleb, I'm going to send you these files for you to do all the editing and uploading. Thanks.
My man.
But so his one of I think he's got a couple hot takes, but one of his is that Ohio State and Alabama both missed the playoff for the first time in the history of the playoff, and Oregon sneaks in as the 4 seed. Season ends just like last year with Georgia proving they're 10 steps ahead of everyone else.
Love it. Love it.
I mean,
I agree with that. I really
yeah,
do. Yeah.
I don't see that being far fetched. Like,
Maybe for like the mainstream, maybe for Reese Davis or something like that. Yeah. I think we're all on the same page there.
For all of those stars to align is probably the hottest take of it. Like that's hitting a 12 leg parlay. But for Ohio State and Alabama to miss a playoff, I think that's not far fetched. For Oregon to
Mhm.
make the playoff, I don't think that's far fetched. And for Georgia to win a third, I don't think that's far fetched. But all of them happening simultaneously would be absolutely wild.
Yeah. I'm
Um,
here for it though.
yeah, no, absolutely. That would be fucking great.
Hmm.
So Caleb does have another one right here, and he said we inspired him with our love for Cash Jones, but he says Cash
Yeah.
Jones is the leading receiver at running back this year.
Oh yeah.
I'm here for it.
Yeah,
Every day
absolutely.
of every week, I'm. You're not going to hear me say no to that.
Cash Jones. Who?
Cash Jones.
Who?
Cash Jones.
Who?
All right, that's enough. Oh, so going to our Instagram submissions here. Longtime follower of ours, and I've actually had quite a few Marvel conversations with this guy. Unruly Simeon is his username on Instagram. One of his hot takes is, despite being total ass, Florida beats the Seminoles.
Where's the game at? Is it in Florida?
It's in Gainesville. Probably a night game.
Yeah. Hmm.
I don't hate it.
No,
I don't
I'm not as
necessarily
high on
love
Florida
it.
State.
I don't
No.
necessarily love it. And I'm not going to go too much into my conference championship picks because that is our episode next week.
Hmm.
Um, I don't love it. I don't hate it. I think, just based off of Florida State's history playing close games with a terrible Florida team, it's entirely possible.
Hmm.
Especially last year. I mean, Anthony Richardson had good games twice last year, and both of them were against teams that finished in the top 10.
Yeah,
So, crazier things have happened. And even though they
for
don't
sure.
have Anthony Richardson, I Graham Mertz, the last game of his career as they finish 5-7, is beating Florida State, who's the top 10 team.
Wearing Tim Tebow's and Anthony Richardson's number 15. I mean, build that man a statue if he beats Florida State this year.
Yes, absolutely. Build him a statue. Build it before you actually build Tebow's too.
Yeah, please. That I know other people have talked about it, but I don't understand how 15's not retired yet for them. It's disrespectful to Tim. He has a plaque on the stadium, and you don't have his number retired.
Yeah, I. That's a deep dive we can get into next off
Yeah,
season.
yeah,
So Caden Burnett on Instagram says Branson Robinson becomes the next Nick Chubb.
love it.
I also love it. I agree with that one. If you had a way to blur the numbers on the jersey, there were multiple times last season where you thought Nick Chubb had come back to Athens when Branson Robinson got the ball.
Hmm. Baby
I,
Chubb.
yeah, baby Chubb. I am all in on this one. I think
Hmm.
a lot of Georgia fans are if you've been paying attention because Branson Robinson's something special.
Hmm.
So we got another one from Unruly Simeon. Shout out to you for your participation in this. Once again, really cool guy. Had multiple Marvel conversations with him. So if you're into that kind of stuff, he's always open to it. But he says Bama, and for the record, I'm a hater. He's saying I, as an Unruly Simeon, is a hater. Because I love Alabama. I never talk trash about him. Will go 12-0 to easily win the West. In most recent years, this ain't a hot take, but it damn sure seems to be this year.
Yeah, this year for sure. Yeah, he's not wrong about that.
I think that is a scathing hot take because I personally do not agree.
You know what my favorite part about that their non-conference would be is if they beat Texas at home, like they win like handily, and then like what the following week or 2 weeks later, whatever time it is. I don't have the schedule in front of me. They lose at USF. They lose in Tampa to that team.
Wait, Bama plays in Tampa?
I believe so. I thought that's what I'm pretty sure. I gotta check that real quick. But I'm like 90% sure.
All right.
They do.
While you're doing that, I'm gonna go on to Tough Daddy 18's comment, and his is a two-parter.
Hmm.
He says FSU will go undefeated and make the championship, and Jordan Travis, will win the Heisman.
Wes, that is scorching hot.
He did not say Florida State wins the title. He said they
Mhm.
make it.
Okay. Sure, why not?
I'm not saying it can't happen. I'm not saying it won't happen. I think they're towards the bottom of the top 10 and making it to the title odds.
Hmm.
Um, not necessarily out of the question, but they do play both LSU and Florida out of the SEC. They also play Clemson again this year. That'll be tough.
Yeah.
That'll
Hmm.
be real tough. Jordan Travis winning the Heisman. I don't. If I had, if I was just throwing money on Heisman odds, I'd put $5 on him.
Yeah. I don't know.
And
I don't see it with him, but
I don't.
I know plenty of other people do.
I don't necessarily think it's gonna happen, but
Yeah.
his odds are gonna be great,
Hmm.
and he has enough big games to get the moments. And throughout the last, what, 7 years, we've seen that you don't have to be on a title contending team to win the Heisman if you play well enough. Lamar Jackson.
Hmm.
I mean, Baker Mayfield, they were good, but there's no way a Lincoln Riley team will ever win the national championship. Hot
With
take
Caleb
again from
Williams.
me.
Yeah.
Caleb
I
Williams.
did. I did find it. So after they play Texas at home, the following week, 3:30, they play at USF in Tampa.
Wild.
Wrap game. Because then they play Ole Miss right after that in Tuscaloosa. So
Oh, the same day they barely beat Texas, Ole Miss beats the shit out of Tulane, and they start thinking about it.
ooh, yeah, let's go. I'm here for it.
Here for it. So this is one of the ones that's going to get to you.
Okay. I'm sitting down.
Um, Cole Quick 00. He submitted this same one to us twice to make sure that it got on the show.
Okay.
Michigan loses 3 games and Harbaugh gets fired.
Shut the fuck up. Where? Okay, so sure, Ohio State, that could be definitely one that they lose, especially with besides the last 2 years, the history of that. Penn State, maybe. I know it's in Happy Valley, it's a whiteout game, but it's at noon. So whatever there. But what other game? What other game could they lose? Honestly, Michigan State. Um, I know they're playing that in East Lansing. That is going to be a night game, and they do serve alcohol in East Lansing and Ann Arbor now at football and basketball games. So that could be something. Someone's going to get murdered, especially with Michigan State. Doing felony assault on players in the tunnel. But no, no, shut the fuck up. No.
Um, I do have a cause for concern for you.
Okay.
What if Michigan's ranked number 2 when they play Purdue?
Where's it at? I don't have.
It's at the Big House.
No, I'm not worried about it. Now, if it was in West Lafayette, I would be worried.
They beat
But
Ohio State in the shoe when Ohio State was ranked number 2 a few years ago.
was it? Oh yeah,
Yes, it
yeah.
was.
Hmm.
Yes, it was. I'm not calling it,
No.
but
Oh God, no. That's a valid point. They don't have Jeff Brom. That's gonna be a change. I know next to nothing about who their head coach is now at Purdue. I really don't. I
it,
cannot even begin to tell you his name. Um, no, I'm not worried about it.
okay, perfect. So Talon Baseball 27. Tennessee downgrades a lot and goes 8-4.
Yeah, yeah, 100%.
Let me actually. So we did a helmet schedule that we're going to be posting here very shortly. Let me see what I have Tennessee doing this year.
I mean, that's so valid. I don't know. Again, I don't know what their over under is for the season. I want to say it's like 9.5.
I think it
So
is.
yeah, so I mean yeah, 8-4 is very much in play. Playing, they do play Georgia at home. They go to Tuscaloosa. That's obviously that. I think that's going to be a loss, no matter how bad or how below what Alabama is typically. Those are two losses right there. So
So they also play Texas A&M at home. They
mm,
play in Lexington, which I know Tennessee claims that they own Kentucky, but this Kentucky team I think is going to be significantly better.
mhm,
And there's always the potential for South Carolina, Shane Beamer to bend Heupel over his knee and spank his ass again.
mhm.
Even though
But
it's,
that is Knoxville though.
I was about to say, it is in Knoxville.
Yeah,
All right, and
but
so
in play.
actually, Tough Daddy submitted multiple, so let's go back and see if anyone has submitted while we were talking. Nope. Tough Daddy just wanted to make sure that we know he thinks Jordan Travis is going to win the Heisman.
Okay, that is a hot take.
It is a hot take. So yeah, guys, that's gonna do it for our hot takes and all that kind of stuff. I do think that this is probably something we're gonna do again next year, just because it was a ton of fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, and I'm gonna be honest. I want some hotter takes. I don't want to agree with you. I
Yeah,
I would love.
we agreed with way too many of them.
I want to roast you for saying dumb shit. I
Yeah,
want
besides
to I want to tag Cold Takes Exposed in your comment.
besides the Michigan one, I see what you're doing there. Okay, all right.
No, I don't have it. I highly think that Michigan deserves to be number 2 in the country this
Yeah.
year. There's
Hmm.
no question about that. So we're gonna get into Breakout Dogs here, and I enjoyed doing this as well. This
Hmm.
was our first episode last year. Doing it again this year. We do not have. I'm doing all defense and Mike's doing all offense. We have a mix of both, so that's cool. But I'll get it kicked off here with my first, and that is Nazir Stackhouse. Not only is Nas another Millions partner, which is real cool, but a lot of Georgia fans already know who Nazir Stackhouse is, but I think that he will be the next name in the line of Georgia defensive tackles that becomes a household name across college football. I think Georgia will continue to have an elite running defense behind Nas being the anchor in the middle. And the thing that I like about Nas that is similar to Jalen Carter is that he is huge but extremely athletic to be how big he is and can provide that interior pass rush for a lot of plays. And one thing that he showed us last year when he was playing for Jalen Carter is that he is extremely durable. So he
Hmm.
can play more snaps. He has the conditioning. I definitely think that he is, you know, sneaky potential first round.
He can because he's a senior this year, right?
I believe so.
Yeah, he's got the experience. Like it's not like he hasn't played. We've seen him out there a ton. So I'm not as worried about that, that Jalen Carter's leaving as maybe some people are, but I'm definitely with you on the Nas train.
Yeah, I'm super excited about that, and I love that he wears a '70s number on the defensive line.
Hell yeah.
That
Hmm.
I love odd numbers, like just
Hmm.
off the wall jersey numbers for positions.
Just complete tangent here. I don't know if you saw it. I mean, probably not because I'm the only one that follows them. But Detroit Lions signed Teddy Bridgewater to be their backup, right? He said in the preseason he's wearing number 50, and I appreciate it. That's wild.
Okay.
Yeah, it means absolutely nothing, but I love different numbers.
Is 5 for how many fingers worth of gloves he's wearing on his throwing hand, and 0 for the number of completions he'll have this season?
Hopefully, I mean, hopefully he doesn't come out there at all because they haven't. I mean, the Lions have never had a backup quarterback. We've been lucky with actual starting quarterbacks the last 15 years or whatever, but before that, obviously not. But yeah, I don't want to see him out there. He needs to hold the clipboard.
All right.
All right. So me next. All right. So, uh,
Yes, Mike.
Mo
You are Mike.
Mike. Okay, that's me. So my breakout guy is Dylan Bell. So we talked about with Candler last week, and if you haven't listened to that, go back and check that out because it was great. But the wide receiver room might be the best wide receiver room in the Kirby Smart era, if not program history. Ladd, Dominic Lovett, Ra Thomas, Marcus Rosemy, Jack Saint are some of the guys that get the most love. But there's one guy that I think can take a huge leap, and that is Dylan Bell. He was recruited for the 2022 class. He's a three-star out of Texas, and he had a kind of an up and down season last year. A lot of that was due to injuries, but at Georgia's pro day, so catching passes from Stetson and whatnot. Several scouts said that Bell looked like the best player. I'm sorry, the best receiver on the field that day. So he's in their ears and all that, and the eye is on them, or their eyes are on him, the scouts at least. Last season, he had 3 touchdowns, including one in the SEC championship. His best game was a 5-catch, 54-yard game, including a 24-yard touchdown against Vanderbilt. And players usually from their freshman to sophomore season take their biggest leap, and that's exactly where he's at right now. So with all the other guys that are going to get a ton of love, I think Dylan's going to make a huge leap, and I'm excited to see him progress this season.
Yeah, no, I definitely think he has a ton of potential. He played so much last year because he can block so well on the outside.
Yeah,
My biggest concern would be the amount of playing time he can get. I think he will
yeah.
absolutely make flashes while he's on the field, but the question is how much he's going to be on the field.
Mhm. I mean, if you even if he's like the fourth guy, I mean, he should get more targets obviously than he got last year. But if anybody goes down, like I'm not going to be super concerned about it because I'm that confident in Dylan Bell.
Damn, there you go.
I am, I really am.
So now we are the number one Cash Jones podcast and Dylan Bell podcast.
Ring the bell. Let's go.
Ooh, that's a good one. Ooh, when he gets a touchdown and we're doing our watch parties, that is
Mm.
100% your line. Go ahead and write
All
it
right.
down because we're both going to
Ring the
forget.
bell. Hey, you know what? And it goes with the tradition at the school.
Yes, it does. Here we go.
And let's go.
All right, so my next guy, in a running back room that has a ton of injuries, I think Andrew Paul is the closest guy in that room right now to Kenny McIntosh. Yes, he's coming off an ACL. He did it over a year ago, right?
Hmm.
We saw George Pickens come back from an ACL in 6 months. He's had a
Which
year.
is crazy, by the way. But yeah.
Yes, absolutely. But he did have a year. And one thing that I really like about Andrew Paul is he was an early enrollee last year. So he was there for the first national title practice. He was there for that spring ball. He was there for most of fall camp before he tore his ACL. He was getting mental reps in practice, getting his PT done with the same guys that got George Pickens back in 6 months. He went through non-contact drills in spring ball this year, and he is finally getting back to contact drills. If he didn't last week, he will this week, is what I read.
Sweet.
But coming out of high school, he was the best receiving threat in the backfield. And I think between that being something that really none of the other guys have shown that they can do well, and all the injuries that are currently in the running back room are going to get him a ton of playing time. But also, this is a big but also, he's one
Hell
of those
yeah.
guys that can make you miss in a phone booth. Like,
Mm.
his shiftiness was elite his senior year of high school, and I'm sure that's going to take a small step back with the ACL injury until he gets confidence in it. But he's also a little bit shorter than a lot of guys, and I think that will get him in the punt returner conversation because
Ooh.
I do not see Georgia putting some of their top receivers like Lad McConkey or Arian Smith back there to get injured.
Mhm. They have a hole there. I mean, Kieris is there. I mean, obviously he was a guy that took a lot of that, so that can
Arian
be
did
good.
it towards the end of last year, but with
Mhm.
I just don't
They
see
want to
them
save him.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And I think Andrew Paul has all of the traits you are looking for in a punt returner.
Ooh, that's good. I like that. I want to see it.
I want to see it almost as much as I want to see Mike Bobo call an I formation play for the first play of the season.
I'll sweep. Do it.
All right.
All right. All right. So my next guy is, and I'll get to it in a second, but I was debating going with Lawson Lucky here. That's actually who I had originally before I, went back and deleted that. But I decided to go with Oscar Delp. And while I think both guys are going to could have potentially big years, depending on how many snaps they get, which I think Oscar will, take the lead with that. But Oscar has more familiarity with the offense, which we've been told that it's not going to change much under Mike Bobo. A lot of the same verbiage is going to be in place, and they're going to continue with that because why change it at this point? Back to back champs, obviously. But last season, Oscar had 5 catches for 61 yards and a touchdown. With that lone one being a dime from Carson Beck in that South Carolina game, it was beautiful. So he has a little
Yes.
bit of rapport with him. Of course, it's going to be tough for him to get on the field and be an offensive threat when Georgia uh, was playing Brock and Big O last year, but over the offseason put on 20 pounds, which I mentioned last week with Candler. So he went from 225 to 245 or something around that, that mark. And everything that we've heard come out of camp that says that he seems a much more comfortable. So with Brock potentially only playing the first half of many games in Georgia's games this season, I'm looking for Delp to kind of take over that, that Big O Darnell position in the receiving game, even though Darnell wasn't used quite as much as I think that we wanted him to see be used. But he's not going to be the blocker that Darnell was. But honestly, who's going to be? He's not. Nobody's 6'7" and runs like Darnell. But I do see him taking those snaps that Darnell had last season and maybe being an even bigger threat in the receiving game.
Yeah, there's not many humans that can be an offensive tackle that runs as fast as Darnell does.
Yeah,
So that's a huge hole to fill on this team, and I think Oscar Delp, between gaining that weight and having multiple years of experience in the program, I think he is that guy.
yeah.
So my last breakout player, and so I was initially gonna cop out on this one and go with multiple guys, but I'm gonna go out on a limb and go ahead and call this position battle early, and you probably haven't guessed it. But I'm going kicker and saying that Jared Zirkle wins this position battle. I know a lot of people probably have no idea who the hell Jared Zirkle is, but as someone who spends way too much of their time thinking and looking at Georgia football, this is his third year in the program after attending the same high school as Johnny Manziel. Learned that the other
Ooh,
day.
ooh. Okay.
Um, he sat behind Jack Podlesny, and it is his time to shine. He is a kicker that was offered a scholarship in Athens. He was the first high school kicker offered a scholarship by Kirby Smart. Fun fact.
Ooh, ooh. Okay.
He was the number 3 kicker in the country his year coming out. But he also punted extremely well in high school. I don't necessarily think he will now because you've got Brett Thorson in here.
Mhm.
But good kickers are a luxury that Georgia's had for a very long time, and I don't see that going away this year. I
Yeah.
Jared Zirkle to me is that guy. Kirby has talked about he had the best spring, he's had the best fall so far. That's the guy.
Whenever teams like change over special teams guys, whether it's punter or place kicker, all that, it does make me a little bit nervous. But with him being so highly regarded coming out of high school, And like you said, being the first kicker to actually receive a high school kicker to receive a scholarship from Kirby, I think that speaks volumes about it. Spring game he wasn't necessarily, know, he wasn't 100%. I think he missed one kick. I think he missed an extra point, but uh, he'd be a good one. Just hopefully, I don't know if y'all heard me knock on wood there, but we've been lucky with special teams this year, or during the Kirby Smart era with Hot Rod, Hot Pod, all that. So hopefully it continues with Zirkle uh, doing that.
So I'm going to look it up, but I believe he actually made some kicks during the title game last year. Um,
Ooh, well, I know Hot Pod missed the extra point that would have had them had the most points in title game history.
oh,
I do remember that.
no, he did not make a kick. He may have kicked an extra point, but only one actual field goal was kicked, and that's the only thing that
No,
um, the website I was looking at kept for stats.
uh,
Um, no, I want to say I saw him out there at least once during that game. Regardless, Jared Zirkle's your kicker. There's not going to be a competition going into the season. Learn the name, guys. I promise you.
hmm and the good news is, I mean, so you said this is his third year, so obviously he hadn't played at all. So realistically, you probably got a red shirt there. You probably have what 3 years with him, or not
Potentially, no, three.
yeah. So
He
that's
still
good. I mean,
qualifies for the COVID year.
oh, okay, yeah, there we go. So yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, no, he could potentially be. Dude could damn near get his law degree from Georgia by the time he left.
At least his bachelor's, unlike some people. Sorry. I love you, Stat. All right. So and it took me so long to get my bachelor's too, so I don't know why the hell I'm talking shit about it.
I
It
mean,
took me
shit.
forever.
I'm I'm going on 10 years without mine. I haven't actually gone to school for 10 years, but
But I was doing that shit consecutively. Like I didn't take a break.
oh,
That's the bad thing part about it. And I wasn't playing high level college football. I had kids, but I mean, even then I have some time.
high level
Um,
dadding. That's what you were doing.
yeah, I was a professional dad. Um,
Hardest
I'm
job in the
working full
world,
time.
man.
Got got my degree from the School of Hard Knocks. Anyway, uh, all right. So my last real breakout player is someone that we've talked about quite a bit already. It was in the hot takes, fan submissions or listener submissions, but my final pick is actually Branson Robinson, and I wasn't necessarily going to go with him at first, especially because you talked about Andrew Paul before, but like we talked about earlier, I'm a huge fan. Since the moment that Branson committed, I thought he was going to be the next Nick Chubb. But with that said, he's not quite at full strength yet, like you mentioned. But when he gets there, look out. I mean, I think he's gonna take the bull by the horns here. His best game last season was in mop up duty in the national championship game where he had 2 touchdowns. In Branson's freshman season, he had 330 yards and 3 touchdowns on almost 5 yards per carry. He's called Baby Chubb for a reason. He runs as hard as pretty much anybody else in the Kirby Smart era. Excuse me. And I can see Georgia turning him at least early on into a third and short specialist, and especially in those situations, because one of my few critiques of Kendall Milton, besides the fact that he is hurt all the time, which is obviously not his fault, but or he's not 100%, is that I don't feel like he runs as hard as I think someone his size should. I think he goes down a little bit easier than I'd like to see someone that's almost as big as Derrick Henry. Like
And I
I
think a
don't know.
lot of that has to do, honestly, with the number of injuries that he's had.
Yeah, he has not been healthy very much at all in his time in Athens. And again, that's probably not a fair critique that I have of him, but I mean that's just kind of what I've seen out of him. And hopefully that changes this year, being the guy more than likely again if he's healthy to start the year. Um, but like I said before, I was excited when Branson committed to Georgia from Mississippi, and that excitement hasn't tapered whatsoever. But with more opportunities, I can see him actually toward the end of the season, if especially if injuries or anything like that happens, becoming the main guy in that running back rotation by the end of the year.
No, I agree with you 100%. I definitely think, even though there's probably a lack of returning production in the running back room, if you want to talk about, Georgia normally having two guys returning that you're like, oh, they're absolutely the guy. You've
Hmm.
got Andrew Paul, Branson Robinson, who we've already talked about, Kendall Milton, Dejan Edwards, and Roderick Robinson. And not to
Hmm.
mention, Kirby Smart's already said Cash Jones is the guy that's shown the most athletic ability during fall camp.
Hmm.
So that is six guys that if they came out for the next play, I don't think anyone will be upset with.
No, not at all. Like, yeah, there's nobody that we should necessarily worry about in like when they're out there in the going out there as running back. Mhm.
All right, so you put an honorable mention in here, so I'll let you take that.
All right, so just real quick before we move on, and I mean I did all offensive guys, so I felt like I should throw somebody on the defense in there, but it's hard to say a breakout player can be a former All American, but Tyke Smith like really fits that description for the Dogs. He was All American at West Virginia before he transferred to Athens a couple years ago, and his time in Athens has been limited a lot due to injuries. But if he's healthy, which I mean by all indications he is at this point, fully expect
He
him.
started
Oh,
fall camp without his knee brace on for the first time pretty much since he came to Athens.
mhm. There we go. There we go. That's what I'm talking about. So like with that said, I fully expect him to be a big difference maker in whatever position that the coaching staff actually puts him at this season. Obviously, we'll see it, in the first couple games, kind of where they put him. But I don't think there's a wrong answer for where you're going to put him. Like I want to see him on the field more to be that difference maker.
Yeah, no, and we talked about it a little bit with Chandler last week, but I'm honestly to the point where I think almost he and Javon Bullard are going to have the same role, and it's just human missile.
Yeah, let
Like
him roam.
we'll Tyke Slaughter Smith and Javon Bullet Bullard because they're just going to be running around the field and taking people's heads off. That just kind of is what it is. What's really interesting about Tyke Smith, and I believe I talked about it last year because I think he was on my list for breakout guys last year and he never really got the opportunity to play,
Hmm.
but he was an All American at in West Virginia's system. They called it a spear, but it's Georgia's star. But he split
I,
time between star and safety, but played star in his time at that position well enough that he was third team All American in a position that he didn't play full time.
I like calling it spear more. I think that's more badass, but
I do too.
it's a side
But
point.
and honestly, a part of me thought that Georgia was going to change it to that because they got the defensive backs coach from West Virginia, and that's one of the reasons
Hmm.
that Tyke Smith came to Athens.
Yeah.
Um, but he left after one season, and I want to say he's at Miami now,
Mm.
the
Well,
coach.
I mean, he's still here, so that's what matters. Tyke at least.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Hmm.
All right, you ready to move on to bandwagon teams?
Hell yeah, let's go.
All right. So this year we set some ground rules for teams that we could not pick. First rule, you cannot pick a team that was one of our puncher's chance teams because that would be just too obvious.
Mhm.
Second rule, the team cannot have made their conference championship game last season. You don't want a team that's almost guaranteed to win 10, 12 games. And the third rule is it cannot be an SEC team because we are going to be rooting for this team every single week and we don't want any caveats on that.
Yeah.
So, mine. As much as y'all know I'm a defensive guy, if you've heard me talk about it before, when I go back to watch old games, what's the one thing I look for? Offense.
There you go.
So I got Washington. And, Washington has a Heisman candidate at quarterback and Michael Penix Jr. Great name, by the way. Has
Dangerous name.
a very dangerous name. Oh, and if they're going to the they're going to the Big Ten, and Gary's going to be calling it.
Michael Penis with a big play.
Thank God Michael will have graduated by the
Yeah,
time they go to the Big Ten because, well, Gary would probably be canceled.
he's trying.
Um, Great group of receivers, solid running backs, is coached by a phenomenal staff, and you guys know Washington's offensive coordinator is one of the guys that I wanted Georgia to go for after Todd Monken left. That was my number one guy that I wanted them to go for. But not only is he a phenomenal offensive coordinator, he is 100% dedicated to the University of Washington. He turned down Alabama, wouldn't take calls from multiple other schools that came after him last year.
Mm.
That is a huge reason that I like their offense. But I don't think I'll be able to pick Washington next year because I think they're winning the Pac 12.
Ooh.
And if the Pac 12 has a playoff team, it's going to be Washington. Still a big if for me.
Mm.
I have no confidence in the Pac 12. But if they have a playoff team, it is going to be Washington. Plus, they're playing all of the quote unquote power hitters of the Pac 12. They play USC, they play Oregon State, they play Oregon. But week one, Boise State. Boise State's always a
Hmm.
fun team to watch, especially when they're playing a big team.
Hmm.
And then they're going to East Lansing to play Mel Tucker Spartans. And then my last reason that I picked Washington, and this is specifically for you, Chris, they have the superior purple and gold uniforms in all of college football. Don't come after me, East Carolina. Especially don't come after me, LSU, because that gold is McDonald's yellow, and they just sat there with a paintball gun and hit the fucking red with blue paintballs until it looked purple. No, Washington has the best purple and gold uniforms in college football, and if you don't
Ooh.
like it, maybe get
Suck
some of
bud.
those maybe get some of those glasses that help you see colors better.
Yeah, man, you know what? When Washington whips out like the chrome gold helmets, there's nothing better.
I like the
So
chrome purple helmets that they've worn a couple times.
yeah,
Oh,
sneaky elite uniform combination. They don't get talked about enough, but I think they will now.
they will here.
Yeah. All right. Um, One thing I do like before I go on to my thing, I do think Michigan State's going to be a lot better this year. I know we'll talk more about that, next week and all that. But are they going to win the Big Ten? No, but they're going to be better than what their record showed last year. I'll just throw
If
that out there. Are they going to beat any of the big players? No, but they're going to be competitive, unlike last year.
if they didn't, if they weren't better than last year, there would be some Michigan State fans going ahead and starting a GoFundMe for Mel Tucker's buyout.
He is the only person with a worse contract than Jimbo, just because I mean at this point he has a bigger buyout. It's
Yes, but Jimbo
incredible.
did get an extension after the COVID year, which
Yeah, that fool's gold.
hustle
Yeah.
of all hustles,
Hmm.
mad respect.
Well, Mel got his extent or his well, I guess it was more of an extension, but he got it after Kenneth Walker single-handedly almost won them the Big Ten.
They beat Michigan that year.
They did. They did.
That was the
That
day
the
of
one
Georgia
loss.
Florida, and I was sitting at the Battery. I drank a whole bottle of Elijah Craig, waiting to go into the World Series.
Mhm. It, they should not have lost that game, but I digress. That was they shouldn't have lost that game, but they still made the playoffs. So at the end, it doesn't really matter all that much, besides for bragging rights. But all right, so my my bandwagon team and like I'm saying here. So I debated going with Texas here, but just out of principle, I can't be on the Texas bandwagon because of how insufferable the fan base is, and they're going to get even worse as when they enter the SEC. But there's also a ton of crossover with Texas fans with Dallas Cowboy fans, and no, no, I can't. No, I can't do it.
That's the correct response. Just no.
Yeah, no, there's nothing. I can't do it. Sorry, but. So with that said, I'm going with Texas Tech, and I think we're kind of on the same page here with the Red Raiders. But last season they went 8-5, which was kind of a surprise considering where they were at before that. But 8-5 in the regular season, 5-4 in Big 12 play. But their wins, which I don't think gets talked about nearly enough, they beat Ole Miss in the bowl game, which, I mean, a bowl game win, it is what it is. You take from that what you will. But they also beat Oklahoma and Texas last year. And with that said, this year the Red Raiders have a really, really fun schedule. They start the season in Laramie in Wyoming against the Cowboys out there. But it's always a fun just scene if you ever watch a game in Wyoming. Usually they're not going to have the snow blowing around and all that, but games in Wyoming are really fun to watch. Just the scenery and all that's awesome. But the week after they return home and play Oregon, which we talked about a little bit before with some of the submissions there about the hot
Oregon
takes.
in Lubbock. Let's
Mm.
go.
I, I can't imagine how difficult it would be to get from Eugene to Lubbock, Texas. There is not jack shit in Lubbock or near it.
Yeah. They're probably getting planes to fly on like municipal airfields.
Yeah, but they do get Oregon at home. I assume that's the first game of a home and home with them. Which again, with Oregon going to the Big 12 or Big 10 with 18 or 16 teams, I'm sure they'll cancel that at some point. But or 18, whatever, well, however many teams they have at this point, who
Texas
fucking
Tech's
cares?
getting their home game in. That's all that matters.
Yep, for them especially, yeah. But in Big 12 play, they have four. They only have four home games: Houston, Kansas State, TCU, and newcomer UCF. And then they go on the road against West Virginia, which should be a win. West Virginia is god awful. They might be one of the worst teams in Power Five. Baylor, who kind of knows what you're getting with them at this point. BYU, newcomer as well. Going to Provo is going to be difficult, but at, it's really hard for a new team to come in and consistently play well. And I think Texas Tech can take advantage of that. And
And
then
guarantee you they will not party the night before at
no,
BYU.
nope. I mean, it's impossible unless they want to go to like a soda fountain or something like that.
Hi, Soakers party.
Oh, I gotta see when that. Oh god, when that game is. Super Soakers, Cougs. Let's go. Anyway, um, Super Soaking with the Cougs. Um,
Zach Wilson.
and they do also go to Lawrence, Kansas, which Kansas very well might be another 6-6 or worse team again this year. Like last year was kind of magical for them.
But six
Uh,
and six is better than where they have been.
yeah, yeah. They're not at the Charlie Weiss Orange Bowl team, and they're never gonna be that again because it's fucking Kansas. But and they also finished the regular season I'm sorry, in Austin against Texas. So with all that said, they do have 14 starters back. The Red Raiders are positioned to push for a spot in the conference title game, and I think they will make it there. Uh, Quarterback Tyler Show headlines a dynamic offense out there in Lubbock, and the defense returns a lot of experience, but it's really more so with the offense, just in the kind of the light of Mike Leach, his legacy there. Obviously, they've changed a few coaches since he's left, but um, last season they had the second most yards per game and also the fourth best scoring offense in the Big 12. So second most yards in the Big 12 as well.
And that's saying something.
Yeah, I mean offense is still a thing in the Big 12. There's no argument there.
Defense never has been, but offense damn sure
Yeah.
is.
Hmm. And they're also one of the things that I appreciate out of them, which makes them even more fun, is they are super super aggressive on fourth down. So they're not just gonna punt in or whatever. Like they're gonna you know show that they prepare for this and go for it, and let their balls hang out and go for it more often than a lot of other teams would. And so I mean the team is gonna be fun just regardless. With all that being said, and the fact that they're not a top 25 team to start the season is
No, they are.
utterly absurd. It really is.
No, I think they are. I think they are
No,
20.
they were technically, I guess they were 26. 'Cause I think they had the most receiving votes.
Oh, was it the coaches poll that they were ranked in?
They may have been. Yeah, I was just looking at the AP.
So you are correct. They are 26th. I looked up the coaches poll earlier, so I'm looking it up again. Damn it! Every time I
But
Google something, it changes. Our
yeah, but I mean, but regardless though, like that is. for as hot as they finished last season, for them not to be ranked in someone like Iowa to be up there is ridiculous. Iowa's defense is obviously good, but again, it's kind of who they play as well.
You know, we are hardcore coaches poll people here now, so that's what we're gonna go by.
Yeah.
And according to the only poll that matters until the playoff poll comes out, Texas Tech is 24th.
Oh, okay.
So there we go.
Mhm.
But I think it's going to do it for us tonight here. As always, follow us on Instagram at nothing.finder.pod. Twitter is at finderpod. Facebook and YouTube, just search us there. We have started posting videos again on YouTube, getting ready for the season. So go ahead and do that. If we get to enough subscribers, we can possibly joint stream with YouTube and Millions, make it a little bit easier for you guys to watch. But we have to get to that minimum number of subscribers to live stream on YouTube. Do you have anything else?
No, I don't think so. I would just definitely check us out on Millions. That's going to help us out considerably. I think you talked about that earlier. But
Yes.
keep spreading the good words so we get more eyeballs on this thing, and we can turn this into something even bigger than it already is.
Rate and review. If you rate and review, send us a screenshot. We will get you a sticker that
Mhm.
is not some BS. Last time we asked, we got a lot more reviews, but not any screenshots, so nobody's getting stickers.
Mhm.
So we want to help you for helping us. So please, if you rate and review, send us a screenshot so we can get you a sticker. Um, but I think that's gonna do it. As always, guys, remember there is nothing finer in the land.
And a drunk, obnoxious Georgia fan.
3rd and a mile. Duggan from the 2 will throw it all the way across the field. It's picked up by Bullardy. Bullard got it again. And Bennett to throw, lobs it to the right corner. There's McConkey. He got on his donkey and made a sliding catch in the right corner. Touchdown.